Biden buddies bank bailout. How do you like that for alliteration? This is Dr. David D. Shine for Saving America. That's right. The feds bailed out Silicon Valley Bank in California and Signature Bank in New York City. I am on record as opposing the private corporation bailout in 2008, 2009, which was under George W. Bush, a Republican, and Barack Obama, a Democrat. Yes, that's right, folks. This is a bipartisan criticism of what's happened in the past, and it's not intended to be partisan. It's straightforward. America is a capitalist system, which means some businesses will not make it, and tough luck. Nobody comes over here and bails me out. Why should we be bailing out these other cats because they have cuddled up with the Biden administration or profess woke policies and theories, which is Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank, best I can tell, based on their advertising and the type of companies that they promoted, particularly Silicon Valley Bank, because the largest single source of cash other than George Soros is Silicon Valley. And it's amazing how quickly the Democrat operation in Washington ran over there to bail those cats out for no good business reason. Furthermore, there was reported to have been a buyer, and the feds ignored that and bailed the bank out anyway, instead of doing the right thing, which is to broker a sale. And by the way, as we're recording this, Credit Suisse, which is in trouble internationally, is being bought out by UBS. That's what should have happened with Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. The feds shouldn't be involved in the deal. So these are very serious considerations. This is an assault on our capitalist system, and it is not good. The FDIC was created after the Great Depression, when many people lost money at banks throughout the United States. Many of us, our only familiarity with this is the famous Jimmy Stewart movie. And that people watch every year at Christmas time. And it's called A Wonderful Life. And in the scenes there, of course, the bank is failing, and Jimmy Stewart talks people into taking a little bit less of their money and leaving most of their money in the bank. Well, we don't have Jimmy Stewart around, but we do have the FDIC, and it's insured depositors up to $250,000. That's, in my opinion, a lot of money, but it's not corporate money. Corporations need to make good decisions based on their banks. Granny and the rest of us do not. So I do endorse the system of insuring deposits up to a certain minimum amount, and that's it, folks. The rest depends on the good judgment of the businesses, and generally you get past that amount, you're talking about wealthy people and businesses who should have the expertise to make good decisions about the banks with which they are doing business. There's a strange deal here. Why have the Washington liberals, who always claim to be the party of, the little person, the minorities, the people with a few $100s in the bank, why are they bailing out big corporations, multimillionaires? Something's not right here, stinks to high heaven, and you don't need to be in Washington, D.C. to smell it. You can smell it here all the way 1,600 miles away in Houston, Texas. Silicon Valley Bank reportedly only had one experienced banking person on its board. What? And this bank had billions and billions of dollars and nobody in charge who was really an experienced bank operator? Folks, people need to start taking a harder look at these situations. What happened to Silicon Valley Bank, ironically, was due to a failure that was caused by Biden inflation. That's right, folks. The bank secures its deposits by buying bonds and putting them online. The bonds were bought in the past during low interest rates during the prior couple administrations. Since Biden came in, inflation has roared away, and those bonds became less valuable because newer bonds are at higher interest rates, dramatically higher interest rates. So what happened is there was a run on SVB, and they had to sell these low value bonds. Again, these bonds, if they could have been held to maturity, would have been just fine. But SVB needed to dump those bonds at a depressed market value because they were at low interest rates in order to cover the run on deposits. This is a tough situation. Reportedly, they had a demand of over $40 billion of withdrawals in one day. This was triggered by a run on the bank, again, similar to the famous Jimmy Stewart, A Wonderful Life movie. The difference was, again, that we had Janet Yellen and the rest of these cats in Washington on guard instead of competent people. And certainly there were no angels running around as they were in the famous movie. The losers running DC into ground claim that there is no problem. We taxpayers are off the hook. The banks will pay in some proportion to basically cover the insured loss here. Now, here's the problem with this. This is the exact same problem of saying, let's make more money, let's raise corporate taxes. You know what? The bank fees are going to come back to all of us. I remember when a stop payment was $10. Stop payment today is at least $30. Why? Because the banks have been hit up for other losses at other banks. And what do? They pass it along to their customers. That's right. What do corporations do when they pay more tax? They pass it along to their customers and contribute to the Biden inflation. Hey, I've been at the grocery store. Something I just bought earlier today, stopped and picked up a couple items. An item that I paid $4 for 2 years ago was $5.50 today. Folks, that's not a 6% inflation rate. That's not even a 10% inflation rate. That's right. It's a dramatic inflation in a lot of different products. So that's what really caused the bank run. And it's time for Jerome Powell at the Fed and for Janet Yellen at the banking regulations to get smart and to say, hey, US government, stop flushing our tax dollars down the toilet. Get it together. That's the real cause of inflation. Raising interest rates is a Band-Aid on the problem. It's time for us as taxpayers and Americans to stand up and say, it's enough. Stop wasting our money. I've heard that the Biden administration is in early discussions regarding raising the debt limit. The Republicans under McCarthy have said, you want to raise the debt limit, you need to cut costs. I've heard Biden, as recently as this morning, said, oh, they're being unreasonable. They want us to cut expenditures. Hey, you know what? You need to cut expenditures. You need to cut expenditures. And by the way, Joe, if you didn't figure it out the first 2 times, you need to cut expenditures and not a couple million. You need to cut billions and billions and billions out of the federal budget. And you need, sadly, to increase the defense budget because we have to have a successful defense program in order to avoid China taking over the United States and the rest of the world. Time for all of us to wake up. No more corporate welfare, Biden buddies. This is Dr. David D. Shine for Saving America. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe on your favorite platform.